Hello folks, welcome back. In this tutorial we're going to do some further 3D work in Adobe After Effects. And I think before we go through the tutorial, I'm just going to show you the effect, or rather the sort of piece of animation that we're going to be aiming for. Let me just render this out. What we're going to try and do is do some very basic sort of camera moves with a bit of light, a nice background, bit of text and some shadows. But what I'm going to try and do is solve a problem that you might find you encounter when you start to move a camera around in space and you're trying to keep the background. In this case I've got a sort of pinky white gradient. And you might find when you've got backgrounds in After Effects, you're moving cameras around, the backgrounds sort of actually move away and you start to point the camera into blank 3D space. Now what you can see on my monitor on the right hand side is that as the camera's moving around, the background stays there all the time. And in fact, if I just pause it here, if you have a look on the monitor, I'm just going to click on the camera there so you can get a sense of it. If you look on the monitor here, what we've got is as it moves through in space, the background moves constantly with the camera. So as we move the camera around, we don't end up pointing it into black empty space. We keep that background locked on there all the time. It's a simple piece of parenting, but I'll take you through it now. So let me just sort of delete the work that I've done. I'll just get rid of that. And let's sort of start from the beginning. Let's just go down to one view just to sort of make things a little easier. So I'm just going to start off with a basic solid. I'm going to go to Effect, Generate. I'm going to go to Gradient Ramp. If you're on the slightly older version of After Effects, CS6, you probably want to go down here where it says Ramp. I don't have it here because they've changed the name of it. But if you're looking for it in CS6, it will just say Ramp. But if you're on CC, go for Gradient Ramp. And I'm just going to make it a little bit more colourful. I'm just going to go to the Start Colour here and just select a slightly reddy colour. That'll do. Right, let's get a bit of text on there as well, and let's just call it Camera Layer Parenting. That'll do for the time being. Let's just move it over here, and I'm just going to delete these panels just so I've got a bit more space to work. Right, probably the first thing I'm going to do is, if you don't have it activated here, just do a right click and let's just go for, columns. I'm just going to put my, just click on parent. You're probably going to need that a bit later on. And I also want my modes, so just put those back on as well. Right, now at the moment I don't have the 3D option here, so click on toggle switches and modes, and to make the layers 3D, click here and click here. Right, next thing I'm going to do is just go to one view here and put myself on two views horizontal. I always find two views horizontal is a good layout if you're trying to work in 3D space in After Effects. Right, I'm just going to make sure my time marker's at 0. Always start your tutorials on 0 if you can, folks. Okay, so let's just position things in the way that I want them. I'm going to just get that bit of text and just pull it out a little bit so we can have a bit of shadowing later on. And let's just actually give ourselves a bit more space here. That'll do. And then I'm just going to add myself a camera so we can start to do some movements. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, Camera. Make sure my preset is at 50mm and then click on OK. Before you start doing any sort of animated and move work, the trick is this. My background I want to keep on screen all the time. And the problem is, as we know, folks, when we start moving cameras around, like so, the background starts to disappear. We can see it moving off screen, which we don't really want. So actually the trick is fairly simple. This is my background here, this white solid 2. If you go to Parent and parent it to the camera, you'll find that whatever moves you do with the camera, that background will now stay fixed to the camera at all times. We won't get any nasty black space coming up on the screen. Just to add a bit of definition so it's easier to see the effect that we're after, I'm going to add a light as well. So Layer, New, Light. make sure Cast Shadows is switched on, and click on OK. And I'm just going to draw that out so as it's not too intrusive. That'll do. As you know from the light tutorials earlier, if you want to cast a shadow, you've got to open the text here, open Material Options, and just make sure that Cast Shadows is switched on. Okay, I think I'm going to move the light up a little bit more, just so as the shadow stands out a bit more in the background. Let's just move the light up. That's a little bit better, maybe a bit more. That'll do, just so as we can see the shadow take a bit more effect. Now, just to remember then, make sure your white solid here is parented to the camera, and you should find when you move the camera around now, the background follows it. So let's just do some basic camera moves. We'll open Transform here. I'm actually going to select all of the keyframes, and by doing so it just gives us a bit more freedom as we work through the timeline. I'm going to go to 1 second, and I'm going to move the camera in like so. As you can see, the background layer is moving with the camera. I want to lock all the other orientation and rotation positions as well, so just do that by hitting these buttons and then adding keyframes so that the rotation and orientation stay in the same place. I'm then going to go to 2 seconds, and I think I'll do a very basic, let's just do a bit of X rotation, just as let's move the camera down a bit, like so. And I'm going to then lock all the other ones as well, just so as they don't move in space. So just lock those down. Let's just see what we've got. Yeah, not bad. Then the camera points down. And then I'll do another simple move again. I think on this occasion, let's put that camera back up. And I think we'll finish off with maybe a simple bit of Y rotation, just on the side like so. Obviously, once you've got the hang of cameras, folks, just start to move it around. I'm not going to labour the point and work all the way through the timeline. That'll probably get a little bit tedious. Right, let's just sort of render that out and see what we've got. Yeah, there you go. Nice, pretty effective. And it's a nice technique to learn. I mean, if you ever sort of go onto YouTube and look at people who've done things like, kinetic typography, you'll often find that they've moved cameras around and the background stays fixed with the camera. So if you're ever wondering how they do that, this is the way. Okay, I'm just going to pause that there, and just as a little reminder, folks, the trick really is fairly straightforward. Just make sure that on your background layer you parent it to the camera. Okay folks, hope you found that useful. See you in the next tutorial.